28365743.
Yeah.
Because it wants me to put an email and a password. And I guess I can log in on Facebook.
Hello?
Yes. Hiya, Mike.
Hello?
How the hell are you?
I just wanted to see what it was all going to look like.
Yeah, we're just trying to make sure that it all works.
I can't see you now, Mike.
You can't see me?
No, we can't see you.
I don't know. I can't get in.
I see Don. Hi, Don.
Hello, I will be seeing you and Marcy tomorrow.
Not if we don't see you first.
Why? You gonna knock at my door?
Support packet. The password.
Oh, Marcy's iPhone.
I'm trying, Terry.
I think you can put your camera on, Marcy.
I'm not even in yet.
Oh, you're not? Oh, because I can hear you, but it must be because you're sitting next to, who are you sitting next to? Mike, other side of Mike.
893055. Eight 93055. And I said 0 because it's a number, not a letter. Oh. I don't see you.
Yeah, I know.
Do you see me? Yeah, you see me.
I see your phone.
You can see my phone. You just can't see my face.
Are you iPhone? David?
Pardon me?
I just admitted you, I believe.
iPhone?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, sorry, okay. Let me try that again. I'll just go to the.
You just popped up in the waiting room. So when you pop up in the waiting room, go over there. You might have to mute your microphone. Let's turn it down. Somebody's kids.
Ugh.
Did you get the quote for the buzzing?
No.
No. Okay.
The time now is 7 o'clock. We will call our meeting to order. All rise and please join me in the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
David Walker.
Here.
Jennifer Eden.
Here.
Mike Cunningham.
Here.
Kurt Schultz.
Here.
Chuck Schultz.
Here.
Herman Ferguson.
Here.
I'm not aware of any changes to the agenda unless there are any. Speak now, or I'll entertain the motion to approve.
So moved.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the agenda is approved. Next is approval of the consent agenda. There are 4 items on it. The Planning Commission approved meeting minutes from February 11th, 2020. Item number 2, Planning Commission approved meeting minutes from April 14th, 2020. Item number 3, Planning Commission approved meeting minutes from May 12th, 2020. And the Planning Commission meeting synopsis from June 9th, 2020.
So moved.
Been motioned and supported to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Next is the opportunity for public comment. So if anybody has any public comment, now's the time to speak. I've got a couple people in the waiting room here. Okay, public comment. If anybody has any public comment, now's the time to speak. Let's start with the audience here. Any public comment? Anybody on Zoom have a public comment?
Not me.
Okay, since we have none, I'm going to go ahead and mute the participants on Zoom so we can go ahead and conduct our business. Next, we have unfinished business. Item number 1 is the sanctuary at Tyrone conditional rezoning request. We had tabled this pending some information from our planner, and we received that information. I know that we have some representatives here from the preserve. I know that last time you were here, we had some lengthy discussion and a presentation. If you have something new, we're willing to entertain that. So did you have anything that you guys wanted to add from the previous discussion that wasn't already covered?
So I guess the question, because the board member is really appropriate to go through the presentation again to their benefit.
Yeah, have you read the board packet and you're familiar with it? Do you need the presentation from Bus Engineering again, or do you feel pretty comfortable with what you read? Okay. All right, well, did you have anything else that you guys wanted to add before we start?
So it has been a while since we were here this month. So
Correct.
what I think what I review is obviously the request is board knows is conditional rezoning to RV, and in the RV zone, which means the master plan, would be permitted 41 lots. Whatever the goal is, a cluster development option, 36 lots, whatever. And then I also think, you know, when you consider the piece of property, the natural resources, et cetera, you know, we know it's going to be developed, and we believe the option before the cluster development option is the best option in terms of resources. It's the best option to the adjacent neighbors. It gives significantly greater buffers than a standard 3-acre plan or 1.7 to 5-acre plan. So I think it's up to all of us tonight to really give it the thought on what makes the most sense for this property. We have the septic system, we have the retention basin, no water impact site. So there are a lot of benefits. And I think, you know, again, it's not a question of if the property is being developed, it will be developed in some fashion. We as a development team absolutely believe for this property, it is the best option. Rather than you have.
Yeah, Roger Myers, I am the attorney representing the applicant. The only thing I would like to add is, when we were here last time, we obviously received the recommendation that was made by the county planning commission. We had, of course, the minutes of the township planning commission meeting. We also had a correspondence that Mr. Meisel forwarded to the township. When we made our presentation, I addressed some of the flaws that, and identified really not only the legal flaws, but the information that had been submitted, particularly Mr. Meisel's letter, really wasn't even properly before the board to be considered as part of the Planning Commission's recommendation, because it never was part of the Planning Commission's recommendation. After we appeared before the board in March, we had submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the county planning department to find out what information they had been given, because what was included in the county planning department review was really significantly broader and much different than what had been analyzed at the Township Planning Commission level. So we then received that information, and much to our dismay, there was a lot of misinformation that had been given to the county planning department, and ultimately the recommendation that was made by the county planning department to the county planning commission, which the county planning commission adopted, was based upon inaccurate information. I prepared, once I received that information, I prepared a letter dated March 20, 2020, and it was submitted to Mr. Harris's office and to McKenna, because obviously we were aware that they were being asked to look at the issues that had been raised that evening. I don't know that when I saw the packet for tonight's meeting, I didn't see that my letter was included in the packet. So I want to just make sure that all of the board members had actually received my letter and had an opportunity to review it, because my letter goes into detail all of the various flaws that were included in Mr. Meisel's February 26th letter that he submitted to the board. It identifies really not only the substantive flaws that were presented to the board, how the arguments that were made just frankly are contrary to this township's own zoning ordinance, but procedurally it was significantly flawed as well, because ultimately when you come back to what happened at the planning commission level, there was only the single basis for the denial was the argument that, or the determination, I should say, by the planning commission that the open space calculation was somehow contrary to Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. In my March 20 letter, I very clearly articulated why that is just, that's just fundamentally flawed, and the only way that anyone could ever reach that conclusion would be to also conclude that the township's zoning ordinance doesn't comply with the Zoning Enabling Act, because there's really no question, and hasn't been any question, not only with regard to this plan, but also with regard to the plan that was previously approved for the 62-acre portion, that the open space calculation, which was done the same for that plan and this plan, was consistent with this township's ordinance, and therefore was consistent with the Zoning Enabling Act. So I think ultimately, again, I just want to make sure that the board has had an opportunity to review my letter. I think it demonstrates the flaws that not only was in the only ground for the Planning Commission's recommendation regarding the alleged nonconformity with the Zoning Enabling Act, but it also really dispels any validity to the issues that were raised by Mr. Meisel but weren't decided by the Planning Commission regarding any alleged nonconformity with the township zoning ordinance. And so while I realize that the township board typically will look to the Planning Commission's recommendation and the County Planning Commission's recommendation as typically a credible source of information on which to analyze the application, in this particular situation, that should not be the case, because the information that was given to well, first of all, the only basis that the Township Planning Commission made is just not legally accurate, and all of the additional information that was given to the County Planning Commission was never before the Township Planning Commission, and so the County Planning Commission is flawed for that reason as well. I mean, ultimately, this, as the township board, I believe is aware, Mr. Ferguson, you were here before, but just to recap and summary, this plan represents the culmination of really 2 years of discussion with the township. My client came before the Township Planning Commission and ultimately the board and got the approval for the 31 lots on 62 acres almost 2 years ago. To further, and could have developed at that point in time, but to further discussions, the determination was made that the additional 10 acres that's been added to the current plan with the additional 5 lots, the same density that was approved in the original plan, really represented a better plan. And so my client, in good faith, decided to forego pursuing the development that had already been approved in furtherance of what he believed, or what they believed was a better plan, and what the township had conveyed that thought was a better plan. And so here we are now, unfortunately, faced with the recommendations, the information that was contained in Mr. Meisel's letter that really just kind of seeks to pull the rug out from that process and the evolution to get where we are today with a much better plan based upon just inaccurate information. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have regarding the information that's in my letter. If not, request that on behalf of my client that the board approve the application. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, does anybody have any questions, or are we ready to talk about this now?
Open space is still in the yard lines for
Mhm.
each individual lot.
Yeah, nothing's changed from their last submittal.
So they're inadequate. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of how our planner sees it. That's how our planning commission sees it. Is that it's deficient in its open space.
I would probably err on the caution of what the planning department would require, or has recommended us to do.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I just have a concern when you start putting open space on a piece of property that has a residential dwelling on it. Open space, you cannot put a fence up. Somebody wants to put a privacy fence up, they cannot. Somebody wants to build a playscape, they cannot. Somebody wants to put a little tool shed, a she shed, a man cave out there, they cannot. I just don't see how that's beneficial. So,
I don't see how we could possibly enforce that.
no, I mean, like I said,
You know, with an extension.
Well, we enforce it by, if they come to the township for a permit, we don't allow them to, but will they come? or will
Some
they
things
just do
don't
it?
need a permit though.
Right.
right. So,
Well, the board has been recommended by the planning commission to deny this request or disapprove the request. And also from the county level as well. And as much as I'm for development, I'm for this kind of thing, but even using my own judgment on what I would be considering usable property, if I had a city, a subdivision lot, and put a fence around it, if I so wanted to, that would be bad.
I don't see how parcel or lot numbers 4, 5, 13, 14 are even buildable. I mean, how do you put a house on that little conformity?
So we do have individual plot plans for like 4 and 5 that show 2006 house on.
What is the acreage or the lot size of 4 and 5? Do you have that?
So they're 1 acre. Actually, I think 5 is slightly above an acre because it's a bit wider. Yeah, so lot 4 is 1 acre, lot 5 is 1.17 acres.
So that gives what buildable on 1 acre? How much can they build on?
For
What
1
size?
acre,
Yeah, size home. 50%.
50%,
On 1 acre. What
you're talking
acreage?
42,000 square feet, so it's the shape of the lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got your building envelope.
But then we have
You'd have to follow the
wetlands.
setbacks, so.
Yeah.
And then the wetlands are in there, so.
Well, you're talking these right here?
Yeah.
Those actually, because even though it's approved, they're gonna engineer those in a way, you know, the site, when they do their site balance, those would technically go away and be deferred to another area or something like
They have to meet the
that. Yeah.
minimum size for the zoning. I
Obviously, they
don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I think it's over around 1,200 square foot, if I'm not mistaken.
Like they would be engineering the soils around there, in order to the road and the lot in there, build the lot and stuff like that. But obviously, they would leave a swamp and put a house on it, you know, but I guess, to break the mold here, I'm just gonna make a motion to deny, for the reason that the zoning is not in the entire compliance with the township master plan. I would not, that's my motion.
I don't think that motion is sufficient.
It's not compatible with the rural residential nature of the surrounding area. The applicant didn't provide wetland delineation report. The request appears to be an attempt to modify the existing zoning ordinance. Number of lots of the development. That is not the intent behind the conditional rezoning ordinance. Plan does not meet the required 50% for perpetuity of undeveloped open space. And requires deviations from the underlying requirements of the rezoning district. And those violations are not offset by the concessions proposed by the applicant. Plan does not fulfill the intended nature of the use of open space preservation for the Michigan Zoning and Enabling Act and the Township Ordinance. Plan does not comply with open space design requirements set forth in the section 21.51 of the Township Zoning Ordinance. And the request does not comply with the intent of Article 8 of open space preservation option.
Okay. I don't think I'm going to be able to repeat all that, but you do have that, so. And we have it recorded. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and supported to deny the approval of the sanctuary or the Oaks conditional rezoning application for the reasons stated by Trustee Schultz. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Thanks for showing up, guys. We'll have minutes available probably next week. That'll have all that outlined if you needed it.
You draft.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Is item number 1, quote for door buzzers at the township office. We have a situation, obviously we have a lot of COVID protocols, and it's already becoming challenging as with a soft opening of controlling the amount of people that are coming into the office, where they're going, spacing and whatever. We see, as now that people are aware that we are open, it's challenging. It's kind of like herding sheep, I hate to use the analogy, but it's quite difficult. I'm on a phone call, someone's getting and there's all these people coming around and people are coming in. So we were thinking about, especially during the election time, that having buzzers on the door so we can allow people to come in if they wanted to stay out in the separated out here in our large, I guess we'll call it our atrium area or our lobby area. There's plenty of room out there where people could stay socially distanced, and then we can control the amount of people that are coming into the office and manage the amount of human contact we're having, not only for the safety of our employees, but for the safety of them. Because we've had people standing right next to each other at the zoning counter. I mean, they came in and they were right on top of one another, and we got to practice social distancing that's required by the governor's order. We just kind of, everybody has to be their own authority, and we kind of have to be, authority for our residents and for our employees as well. So we are currently awaiting the quote. I know that Marcy has spoke with our locksmith, and they have an estimated idea, but what we would like to do is go ahead and ask the board if we can get approval up to $1,000. We don't expect it to be over $1,000, more in the ballpark of $700. But it's something we don't want to wait on, because we want to continue to move forward and be able to service our residents without any delays. So we'd like to get approval for this before our next meeting. So
We have a lot of people that want to come in and pay their taxes. So after July 1st, we'll have people, a steady stream of traffic coming in to pay taxes and sewer bills. And then we're also going to be issuing ballots. So, we're going to potentially run into a problem where we have too many people in and we can't space them out. They're already not following the markings we have on the floor. As he said, they're standing right next to each other. We clearly have markings back there for them to stand on, and they're just completely disregarding all of our markings. So we have to have a way to keep everybody safe, and our doors are set up when you guys did the work, you wired them so that they're all set to go. So we can put a buzzer out there and we can buzz them in and buzz them out. And I don't want to have to do that, but I can see already it's going to be a problem.
Is this going to be standard working hours, everything? It's going to be you buzz in, you buzz out kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
As needed. We don't want to have to do it all the time, but I mean, when it starts getting crazy, we're going to have to step people back. And we have some desks in there that do not have plexiglass. We have tape on the floor, and they're literally face to face with our employees. And we've already had a COVID case come through here, and it sent a shockwave. So let's at least, I'm not a doctor. I have my own ideas on it, but I think what we need to do is be in a position that we can, try to protect everybody the best we can, not only our residents, but our employees. social distancing is something we haven't grown up with. And we learn habits over time, and it's going to take time for people to adjust to it. I see some people are extremely vigilant, and others, they're not grasping it quite yet. So I think this is more just a precautionary measure and a peace of mind going forward.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve up to $1,000 for the door buzz.
Been motioned and supported to approve up to $1,000 for door buzzers for the township office. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Next is miscellaneous business. We have none. Public remarks. Does anybody have any public comment? I do have people on mute, so you can unmute yourself if you have a comment. Don, did you have something to say?
Yeah. Real quick. Door buzzer, I can understand it for security reasons, but not for the reasons that I've just heard. Sorry.
Yep, I can appreciate that.
I understand liability and everything else, but
It's not to keep people out.
it's
Just to manage the flow of people that are coming in because they're not being respectful of each other. And I don't know how loud I can beat that drum, but this is what we've decided to do in the meantime. Hopefully we don't have to rely on this all the time. If everybody would be their own authority and everyone would take responsibility and accountability for it, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
it's a slippery slope.
Oh,
And that's
I'm sure there's things that happen with it.
That's it. It's just a very slippery slope. But okay, you
No, I
gotta
appreciate your comment.
do what you gotta do.
Understood. Thank you, Don. Does anybody else have any comment? Does anybody here have any comment? Being that there's none, we'll go ahead and close public remarks, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Been motioned and supported to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for tuning in.